So hello everyone, welcome to the second edition of Kylas MyOperator MSME Growth Masterclass. And this one we have on Generative AI. I'm Chainika, Dhaila, your moderator for the session and also the brand manager at Kylas. So without wasting much of your time, let me quickly introduce you to our panel here. So we have with us Ketan Sabnis, co-founder and CEO at Kylas. So Ketan is an engineer and entrepreneur with a long-standing expertise of 13 years in building and scaling SaaS products. Ketan is a visionary driven towards building technology solutions and empowering small businesses across India to fast track their digital journey. We also have Ankit here with us. Ankit is the founder and CEO of MyOperator. He has the passion for innovation, which has led him to build a bootstrap SaaS product from India, which has helped over 7,000 plus SMBs manage their customer interactions. Ankit's motto is to bring tech to the smallest of business and to create a dependable future leaders through mentoring and offering business guidance. So thank you so much for joining us, Ketan and Ankit.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chainika. Thanks for hosting this.
Perfect. So, without wasting any more time, let me quickly get into questions. So, today's discussion is all about generative AI, and we all know that since last November 2022, ever since ChatGPT got into the picture, there has been so much buzz around generative AI. So, I'm sure you, as attendees, have heard a lot about what generative AI is, what it does. But can you just start by defining generative AI for us? And tell us, how does it fits into the AI ecosystem? So any one of you who would like to take this question?
Okay,
Ketan? Sure. I'll go with it. So, how generally I define and goes with the whole definition of generative AI. So, as compared to various technologies that we have used in past, there's a new set of technology which has emerged and which is able to create sort of different assets, conversations, etc. Without or with needing just a minor human intervention or human inputs. There has been a bouquet of solutions or services that we see, around generative AIs that have emerged, and we can talk about, generative AIs generating images, maybe product images, or various website images, or there are generative AIs which can generate conversations, text, knowledge. There are generative AIs which can create the whole video out of thin air, etc. So there's a huge bouquet, and this combinedly is known as generative AI. And and as I've been believing in this, I think this is probably the third wave of technology as we see it. We call it the first wave where internet came in, the websites, etc. started growing up. That was like 2000, the internet era. And the mobile era came in, with 2010 around. There was a mobile era. Everything was moving towards mobile. That led to a lot of new businesses emerging, new market shifts happening. And this is like a third technology wave where we are shifting towards much more intelligent systems, much more intelligent solutions, or a different interface, much more simplistic interfaces. And this is again going to shift a lot of market behaviors, a lot of new players, a lot of world order again in that sense, in the technology space sense, gonna come up. So that's how I see, what is generative AI, and my philosophy regarding it. Ketan.
Yeah, I think you've put it right. Probably just to give a more, you've covered most of it. So probably a technical aspect to how people should look at AI. So generative AI is probably like a subset of overall AI. AI essentially is anything that you would, how do you emulate human behavior or use machines to kind of emulate human behavior? That's what AI as a overall field looks like. And then, like you were saying, of course, one way of looking at this internet, mobile, and years back, what started was essentially we started moving towards ML, where machine learning became really one piece that everybody was talking about 10 to 15 years back. And that was essentially where we could develop systems which were learning. You could provide data and they could learn. And then we went into a deep learning kind of a newer field that started getting explored some 5 years back, I guess. So deep learning is kind of somewhere where with more processing power, with larger data sets, I think with neural networks, what companies like Google could do is use that computing power to allow neural engines to just learn from a huge data set. And at that point, there are multiple layers. So at this point, if you talk about deep learning or generative AI, it's essentially something that even an engineer cannot tell you how the engine is essentially learning or predicting or doing what in terms. There are multiple layers through which it kind of learns on itself. And there are still newer things which people are kind of exploring. So even today, there are constraints in terms of how much data you need to provide. The data might create bias inside the generative AI, but I think this field is still going to grow. It's early days for generative AI, but I think it's an excellent or a very exciting time to kind of be there. And the competition is heating up. You see every big large company kind of enter into it, and it also means that kind of what we were thinking a few years back, especially as engineers or someone who was creating a product, we were always thinking that we will have to invest into a team that kind of builds AI models. To kind of figure out the model. With say a chat GPT or OpenAI, or now you've got Llama from Meta, I think it has become like a commodity now, where everybody knows that say 90% of the work for me as a generic model is out there. How do I use it? How do I customize it? How do I provide information about my brand, about my company, about my assets, my information, and then kind of get more crystallized output out of it is something that people are now looking at. So excellent time for SMBs because we're talking to them, excellent time for enterprises, excellent time for us as product companies to also be there. A lot of the groundwork for us is kind of done with these generative AI tools.
So, Ketan, you talked about the constraints for generative AI, right? So, what exactly can you do and cannot do with Gen AI technologies?
Okay, so I think Ankit already covered what you can do. A lot of it is around, it starts from generating content to generating images. People have started getting into video generation as well. But essentially, the primary use that you can immediately get started with is paid marketing, paid content. Definitely can be explored immediately. Another thing, of course, that my friend is exploring things like calling and how to from text to speech and stuff like that. So a lot of other applications around it also. I think developers. So if you have any IT companies or people in the group who will probably form a development background, a lot of use cases for generative AI. You can get code written now. Within Kylas, we've been exploring it at a lot of places where we see juniors use it a lot to quickly learn, especially if you have to integrate with newer libraries or we need to integrate with third-party platforms. Reading through the documentation, reading through all of that, and giving an initial code is something that I think generative AI does very well. Content translation, again, I think a lot of companies, especially when you're working in India, I think content translation is a very important aspect for all of us. So say you have how to use kind of videos or how to use the product documentation, converting this to a multilingual or into very local languages is a very tedious task. So I think definite place for generative AI to kind of help you do that much faster. On things that cannot be done, I think there's still there's the human part is never going to go off. So how much of whether the AI kind of gives you it's all driven from a data set from which it is learned. So there's no original thought or understanding beyond that context that the AI has. So anything that you see as creative or creative art or the first time kind of a thing, it's not something that the AI can do. One more thing is something if you're running organizations, I think people connect, HR, having an emotional connection, driving people to kind of if you're building a company, looking at what is your vision and convincing. So these are very human aspects into which you cannot look at generative AI. So generative AI will help you automate HR processes, drive more engagement, but purely from a human angle, it's not going to kind of get into that.
Ankit, anything that you'd like to add to this?
See, I think Ketan covered most of it, and I just want to emphasize on the most important part where he rightly said, it just can tell you or create what has already been created. It can't create something which is, yet not been created. So even though, we'll see a lot of images and a lot of content which might look like to us that it's something very new, but it's only taking its cues from the data it has learned from. So and that's a very strong demarcation, I think, gonna have with AI versus people. AI will be super helpful for repeated tasks. However, wherever you need critical thinking, you need innovation, you need to find new ways, and you need a human connect. I think that's where till now, and thankfully, AI is still not gonna jump into. But that makes it, again, a perfect tool or a perfect companion for most of the workforce. It helps you do the repeated task a lot. It helps you, do the minute chores a lot. But you have to get up for the more cognitive task, more decision making abilities. That's where humans will stay strong.
Makes sense, makes sense. So ideally, there was a recent report by McKinsey that suggested that Gen AI is going to contribute to an equivalent of $2.6 trillion to $4.4 trillion in productivity growth in the economy. So could you identify some use cases for MSMEs where the application of Gen AI could yield to substantial business value?
Sure. See, and I'm more thinking from a perspective. I've been thinking about this for ever since we started talking about it, and I probably I can tell you things where I haven't found it's not adding value, and it's like it's adding value everywhere. There are so, and again, when generative AI itself is a bouquet of technologies or systems that has emerged, it's covering pretty much a huge array or aspects of the MSMEs or business processes, etc. across. However, at the same time, I'm a firm believer. Philosophically, I feel Gen AI gonna impact MSME the most. It's definitely gonna impact each individual, enterprises even, or individual work life, etc. But I think the MSMEs are the one who's gonna be most impacted in a significant manner with the whole generative AI. And I say this with a statement that uh, at a product level, at a software level, system levels, what best these generative AIs is able to do is simplify the whole interface or simplify the complexity of systems that we have created in the past. you know uh, so there was a transition. When systems evolved, we first started having applications, desktop applications, etc. Last 10 years we saw the whole rise of SaaS, and everything moved towards a cloud interface. Web browser became the primary interface that we use. Now I think this interface is going to change to the conversational interface, which will lead to much reduction in the complexity of all the systems and tools that you're using. And that's also one of the key roadblock in adoption for MSMEs for such systems or technology or digitization, whatever you say. But now with all this change in the landscape, I think they would be the one who will get most impacted in terms of digitize. They'll be able to use the same kind of technology or same sophistication technology which was earlier limited to maybe enterprises or mid-sized businesses. Now even a smallest of business, and that's what we're seeing even on our journey, that even the smallest of business are able to use the system which we didn't see a couple of years back, because the whole complexity attached to it. And that's where I think the phenomenal opportunity for everyone of us as in the market lies.
Ketan, your take on it?
Yeah, I think he's put it very, very right. The interface is completely changed, and I think conversational UI kind of made ChatGPT what it is, because that's where people realize that it's very, very easy to use. You don't need any kind of training. It's very conversational in terms of how you ask it a question. You've got a lot of people kind of telling you what are the prompts that give you the best answers. But I think even at a basic level, if you're just researching for something or you just want to read up on something, I think plain simple language in terms of what people understand, it's you ask it and you get very detailed, and it kind of flows with that context. You don't need to keep asking. It carries that context. So I think in that sense, it was perfect in terms of how adoption kind of worked for ChatGPT. And then it's right. I think with more efficiency, it's definitely going to add a lot of value, whether you measure it in terms of productivity growth or you measure it in terms of how much of $1 trillion it's going to add to your economy. So your question, I think, was about the sectors as well. So I think Of course, across all the sectors, you will see an impact, but within that, I think functional, if you are to go functional within these sectors, I think one very immediate impact is within sales, marketing, and customer operations or customer engagement that you're doing. I think these as functions, these are the ones that will have immediate impact that you'll see from Gen AI. So sales marketing, if I had to pick up, you'll see a lot of tools now available which help you, whether you're running SEO, whether you're generating blogs, whether you're writing content. Uh, Excellent to use a chat GPT kind of an interface. There are other versions or other products written on top of GPT which kind of allow you the flavor of a brand, allow you context of a specific industry and stuff like that. So if it's about writing content for marketing, sales, excellent place to start with. Customer operations, again, we've been always using chatbots for the last, I think, 3-4 years. Chatbots has been something that has been growing, but now you can actually use natural language where you can now interact with customers. I think that power is going to be excellent to work, whether you're looking at scale while growing a business, especially for SMBs. Integrating with bots and stuff, I think functionally. So customer engagement is another place where I think it's going to have a major impact. And then, so it again flows into the industry. So if I have to look at industries, then banking, which is very they've got retail banking, so they need customer engagement a lot. They have a lot of documentation to be completed. They might need OCR for kind of scanning documents. So these are very, very basic stuff that a Gen AI kind of does today. Or if I have to look at auto sectors, auto dealerships, again, very similar interface. Or if I get into retail, consumer goods, these are, I think, sectors which will get impacted immediately. For consumer goods, like what kind of ad content works, consumer research. If you want to attempt a GTM in a new market, it has a lot of research content available within that, whether this product will work, what kind of e-commerce, again, one more sector. I think education may not is something where you need to put more effort, but I think education is going to completely can be redefined how you look at education. So I think a couple of months back, I had seen what Khan Academy has done with Khan Bingo. Anyone who is here, I would recommend please go and check it out. So I think they are redefining how education can work with generative AI. Where people were just assuming that students are now going to copy content or go to a chat GPT and get that content in. But how do you have a different take from a Khan Academy to kind of use generative AI and give more input as a very personalized tutor to work with the students? So I think this is, and I think once you kind of help education change, that change in economy over the next 10 years is going to be massive because you're completely changing how people think and how the next generation is kind of going to pick up from there. So I think a lot of industries, but immediate impact from my end, I think will be customer operations and marketing and sales, where it's very straightforward, very most of the out of the box solutions kind of work for these functions.
Rightly said, Ketan. I would like agree with you there 100%. So adding on to this same question, like we all know that what does it mean for MSMEs who are in their initial stage of digitization, like navigating should they do? What are some modest yet strategic initiatives that they can leverage to, inculcate capacities or capabilities for that matter?
Ankit, you want to?
Sure. See, I think, my perspective about MSMEs adopting, the whole generative AI or AI in large. I mean, they won't have direct bandwidth to deploy or build their own AI layer for sure. And I think that's really going to be a bad idea if somebody's thinking. So let me simplify for people who are thinking about AI and want to understand how do we really use it. Is the best bet is you find out about tools which is really relying on a lot of AIs or building towards the vision of the AI. And I'm sure, like for example, Kylas, and because I've known this, investing a lot on these AI specific tools, etc. That's a kind of tool probably I as an end consumer, I as an MSME would look forward to. I would generally want to see what are the tools available which has already played a role for us, and how they're adopting the generative AI, how they are moving fast in direction of generative AI. I think generative AI would empower the tool like us or Kylas for that matter, and we gonna empower the end customer further. So their probably adoption path is to find out, understand how it's impacting, how they're changing the world with these generative AIs, and start using it. At the same time, I think there is and at least it faded now, but when the whole chat GPT started, there was a certain turmoil around it, that how do we adopt generative AIs, how do we start using it, etc. And I said, look, everybody, this is just a initial boost that the whole chat GPT brought into generative AI, but this is not a month story. This is like gonna be the decade story, and hence probably every MSME should start exploring that. But it's not they're losing immediately, and they should not say, oh, probably every month is wasted. It might take some more time to really get valuable outputs out of these generative AIs which can be used by them. But they should start believing in this direction. They should start finding what are the tools available which are changing how work is defined, how interaction is defined, how customer journey is defined using these tools, and start betting on the tool further.
Ketan, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, I completely agree with all these things. I think as MSMEs, I think we should not look at, they should kind of use out of the box solutions. A lot of customized solutions over a chat GPT are available. So investing into creating your own model or customizing your own AI model is something that you can explore at a later stage. You should definitely start with an out of the box solution. I think it also means how you look at your people strategy. So I think at a starting point, if we don't adopt using a generative AI in our day-to-day lives, I think that's the main key point, right? Look at it like if it's a CRM, right? If you install it, you first make you ensure that your team kind of logs into it every day, ensures that it becomes part of their daily life, and that's the first effort I think MSME should start putting into. So more than looking at what is the possibility with a complex possibility or a complex use case for a Gen AI, I think they can start with just using it in day-to-day lives in their for all of their employees. So I think as a people strategy, looking at where their team currently understands Gen AI, how do they use it today? And I'm pretty sure almost everyone here, most of their team members must have already started exploring it without probably the heads or the department heads or someone at the top management probably knowing about it. But most of them are just exploring it. So understanding where people are, how much the company needs to invest into upskilling or reskilling that team is one place where we can all get started, right? So that's these are low-hanging fruits. I think you can just start with that. I think second thing, anytime when you're looking at an AI project or something, it's very easy to get lost into so many tools and so many conversations happening around it. So putting one business goal at the start, so define what you really want to achieve as a business goal. So it could be, say, you're looking at growth. What's the current need that you want to explore? And it could be sales, it could be growth, it could be, like I said, customer retention or customer satisfaction, or you just want to drive more efficiency. It could be anything one of these. But once you define that, it's again the same cycle. You put metrics, you define baseline of metrics today, baseline or set a target metric to that, and then identify the people, identify the processes where you can actually plug these tools in, and then start measuring it in an iterative manner. So keep it very simple, probably something that you can iterate within a month, use out-of-the-box solutions, and keep measuring and then repeating the loop. I think that's fine. And again, I come back to the same thing. It's sales, marketing, HR, customer communication. These are the easiest ones where you can get started. Most of the tools available kind of deal in these functions. So and by industry, of course, we have different, and we can take these questions or we can take this offline again if anyone is interested in talking about it. But by industry, we can always work on different use cases that you might have. And within Kylas or MyOperator, we'll of course try to kind of create that using the tools that are available, like Ankit was saying.
So Ketan, I think you rightly said, I mean, the first step they should do right now, if they haven't already adopted a CRM or a tool in first place, that's, I think, the step they really need to take immediately. Because that, AI not just come out of somewhere and gonna help you. It'll be riding some of these technology layer which is already built. And if an MSME or any general business, if they're already not using a tool in some specific areas, and there are a number of tools already for for various functions available online, available across markets, they really need to start adopting that immediately. That's, I think, the no-go step. You can't avoid that. You can't skip that now. You could have done it thinking, it's adding complexity, etc. But I think, it's soon gonna be going otherwise. But it's important to adopt these systems, whether a CRM, whether a communication layer, call, WhatsApp, or any marketing tool. You need to start doing that immediately. That's a no-go area.
I think even over the next year or so, I think products also will evolve into that direction. So today, if I had to use a chat GPT, I have to kind of go in a separate tab on a browser and then kind of use it. I think over the next year, you will start seeing most of these products come into most of the things that you're using, like email. Probably today you already have your Outlook or your Gmail kind of complete your sentences, but say over the next 1 year, definitely Google will be integrating Bard into Gmail to kind of give you auto-generated responses. So whether you decide or no, there will be these more clear interventions or intervention points where you start seeing it within the product. But I think that's the key point to keep in mind. People will adopt or use something when it's made part of their daily process or the daily software tools or whatever that they're using. So at the right place at the right time, if you can plug a Gen AI into the process, I think that's the easiest way to kind of adopt, and then the feedback loop or that loop will start generating more value for an SME.
Makes complete sense. So we've already been seeing this with Grammarly, with Canva, that generative AI tools are actually riding on some technology. So that's certainly going to happen with CRMs and CPaaS technology as well. Coming back to this, the most I think burning question for this year after the ChatGPT launched in the globe was about robo-colleagues. So Gartner already predicted that by 2026, 100 million workers will have a robo-colleague. So generative AI, as we already know, is certainly causing a stir in the world of knowledge workers, right? So should it be viewed as a superpower for the workforce, or should it be considered as a threat to job security?
Sure. So I think, I've largely used word robo assistant for a matter, it defines a difference. Robo colleague often looks like a threatening thing, it looks like, it's going to take away the job. However, robo assistant, when you think about it, it's like going to assist you in every sense. and that's a word I prefer. And I strongly believe that it's gonna ease out work for most of the workforce. It's gonna help them significantly boost their own performance, keep them away from very repetitive or monotonic or random chores. It'll help them really focus on cognitive abilities, really focus on things that can't be done by the AI system. And people enjoy that. People enjoy that kind of cognitive work to be done. Nobody enjoys doing repeated monotonic tasks, etc. And I think people really gonna enjoy that by being assisted, by being some kind of robo assistant rather than getting replaced. However, at the same time, I do not completely deny the replacement in some areas, but people will have to believe that it need a lot of reskilling, a lot of new learnings, etc. As defined by even Ketan initially, that this won't do innovative tasks. This won't do anything that is out of box. So you'll have to start training yourself to think out of box, be critical thinker, be a critical worker. Start focusing on those skill set rather than maybe just a very entry level even data entry or something which is very repetitive in nature. The moment you get in there, I mean, this whole generative AI would become like a super assistant to you. But if not, I think there'll be some tough time.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think so. And rightly said, it's not a robo colleague; it's a assistant. So generally, that's the whole idea when someone creates a robo for this. That's the whole point of creating Gen AI from companies who kind of support it or are building for it. So it's supposed to complement, say, augment abilities of a human, and you cannot be taking out human out of that entire equation. When you say you have a colleague, the collaboration, so that there's a human angle, there's an emotional angle which you'll never be able to take out. So it's always going to be an assistant kind of helping you do things. And there are a lot of places where it will also add a lot of value. So if I had to give examples, probably look at something which is really hazardous, kind of a job safety is a concern. So you'll definitely have more bots or robo colleagues who can actually help you with that. So I think Bandicoots was one example that where they're cleaning septic tanks using bots. So I think there are very clear examples where they add a lot of value to humans, leaving the more cognitive, like he said, jobs for humans to do. So more thinking, more creative work is left to humans, and that is essentially how industrial revolution has also gone. So with industrial revolution 1, 2, 3, we've always been hearing that there is going to be job loss. So I think there is always it's not a job loss, but it's a shift in what jobs or what massive job creation happens. So it's going to shift away from say today a lot of people get involved into record keeping or data entry. So most of these jobs will probably go up, but uh, it takes one cycle, probably 3 years, 5 years, and then people reskill themselves, learn new tools, and that's essentially what people need to keep in mind. Ensure that you learn new tools, get accustomed to kind of using Gen AI, use a copilot, and this is disrupting everyone. So I think today it's even a developer who's probably working on a Gen AI is very worried about his job. That's probably happening for the first time, where a developer who is probably working or an engineer is working or coding is now feeling that there's generative AI who can take away my job and write the code on itself. So it's kind of comic, but it's not going to happen. It's always going to be a cycle. And I think as people, we always need to understand the human connect, the emotional understanding, empathy, people management skills. That's essentially how companies are built, how you scale. So nothing to that is going to ever change. So I think we should always look at it positively.
Yeah.
Well said, Ankit. Well said, Ketan. So, another question that actually was asked by a lot of people whenever the Gen AI topic comes up. So, there has been a long debate along the threats that can be posed by artificial intelligence, right? So, what are some risks and challenges that you see with generative AI, if not job security?
Sure. So I think see there are definitely a lot of risk every new technology that comes in and that brings in together. Most of the time they are overhyped and they are like small percentage of it compared to the whole benefit the whole ecosystem brings in. I mean, we spoke about mobile phones coming in, and we probably were the generation who were like reading about the radiations and whatnot about mobile, how it's damaging us. But just look at right now. I mean, it might would have done some part of that as a harm, but if you see the larger cycle, how is it connected the whole world? Could not have imagined a lot of things that we're doing right now without mobile or without internet even in the first place. And even with this debate, I saw a lot of a lot of cartoons way back from 90s, early 90s, where people were talking about electricity, how electricity gonna change everything, and how it's gonna make everything look bad, etc. But look at it right now. I mean, we're no longer talking about it for ages. Similarly, even with generative AI, there would be similar discussion. I think it'll continue, till next 1 decade. We'll keep continue talking about it or fighting about it. But and to keep in mind, some of the dangers that we see, and we clearly understand. One of the threat that's really picking up right now is generating or mimicking people, or in a sense of cloning people's digital presence, identity, etc. We're already hearing some cases where either the voice cloning or the video cloning has been used to scam somebody, etc. But again, it all happens. Accident even happened today with whatever car we have. But eventually, if we see, there are technology emerging which is allowing the players or people to identify between right and wrong, identifying between what's real and what's fake, what's generated and what's the real world thing, etc. These are part of thing, and these are also sometimes important for uh, to educate everybody. Look, that in the world is changing and we need to be aware about both side of it. There are risk posed by every technology, and we be aware about it, but rest just enjoy the whole wave.
That's true. So I think the current challenge with terms of misinformation or fake content or deepfakes, that's something that is definitely happening out there. That is a real challenge, but I think people are figuring out. So the latest news is a Bard or a Chat GPT or any of these DALI or one is going to watermark content that is kind of generated using AI. So of course, the companies who are working on largely accepted models of generative AI, globally most accepted or most used products, are going to put in double checks to ensure that everything that is being generated by their Gen AI models has a kind of a stamp from there that this is probably could be fake content or a warning or something like that. And they're of course putting in checks to ensure that there is minimal biased content that is generated. So I think there was a research in terms of bias. If you look at the data that is given to them, it might result in very skewed kind of outputs. So it was around employment data getting skewed towards men. So so the bot is or the AI is generating content based on what kind of content you're giving. So this challenge will be there, but I think as companies working on these products, I think they are definitely taking care of that. One more general challenge is going to be, which I have not seen companies take care of right now, is probably the copyright or privacy as an issue. So today I go to a Chat GPT and I can ask about content from any book. A lot of the books have already been kind of learned, and it gives me a summarized content of a book, which is kind of eating into a privacy and also eating into someone's revenues right now, which is something that companies will evolve over a period of time. But of course, these are challenges. Apart from that, I think even from a government perspective, I think whether it's India, whether it's the EU, they're definitely looking at a legal and an ethical kind of use of these frameworks, putting in. So these are early days. I think they are also learning. There will be law, there will be more guidance in terms of how to create responsible AI. But I think as SMBs, I think we should not worry about it. But anytime that you are using within your flow, I think there are a few things that you can take care of. One, anytime you are asking for any content to be generated or anything that is generated by an AI, you could, if there are facts that are cited in it, you can always ask the bot to or the GPT to kind of cite the exact citation from where it has learned this data. That gives you more confidence about the content. If not that way, you can always go back to Google search, or you can go back to fact finding and confirming whether any facts mentioned in the content generated are valid. Within the company, any of your data that you're probably submitting, you can look at what kind of, so that it doesn't get generated or used by someone else. These are some kind of content. Also ensure that there is no plagiarism. There's no content from some other company which is probably crawled or available within GPT is being used for your purpose. You can get probably asked to kind of remove it at a later point if it's something that should not have been used. So just always ensure that there's a human put in between to kind of review anything that is generated from GPT or from any of these Gen AI tools. And before it goes into production, before it goes into marketing, have someone ensure that you have validated the facts, you've confirmed there's no issue with any content that's going out. But as long as you do that, I think you'll always be safe on it. And that again comes to the first point where I was saying training your teams about generative AI, the tools, how to use them, what are the risks. I think the more you talk and the more you train them, they will be more aware, and it's pretty easy to kind of then go from there. But that's my take probably.
So we probably talked about a lot of implementation in various different business functions, right? So how do MSMEs in general implement Gen AI into their existing workflows? What are some preliminary steps that they should take so that they can utilize this technology in their pre-existing workflows?
Sure. So I think we spoke about this in the previous pointers. We mentioned this, that I think the first step gonna be start using the system. See, this is generative AI is a technology layer, and till the time you start digitizing, if some process or some activities that you're not yet digitized, it won't be useful for you in any sense. For example, if you're not using CRMs, you won't be able to use generative AI to tell the prospects, or automate some of the functions, etc. If you're not using a communication layer, you can't automate some of the communication tasks that can be automated. I think the first step is start digitizing your process, start digitizing your workflows, your journey. And there are a number of good tools available out there beyond what both me and Ketan we built together. There are a lot of use cases, and you need to start using that in the first place.
Right, like entire process into a digital framework is the first point, I think, where you can start, because once you have that, then that's the starting point of plugging in the right tools at the right place. But yeah, I think it's starting from that point.
So Ankit and Ketan,
This question,
Ankit.
Ketan, I'm sorry, I'm going a bit off track, but let me ask you this question. As a business owner, what are some of the tools that you have, used, some generative AI tool that you've used as a person, but maybe as a business owner?
So ChatGPT, definitely. I have used ChatGPT very extensively. So right from responding to a lot of emails to probably writing or modifying my content that I would probably want to say. So I think that's the starting point for everyone. Within ChatGPT also, there are a lot of plugins that are available to kind of use the internet in a live mode. So a lot of the plugin system around ChatGPT also is something that I've used. I've used ClickUp a lot. ClickUp recently came up with, so we already were using ClickUp for a lot of project management / task management. So within ClickUp, they kind of got into, you give them a context about a project and they could generate a, like this is the task list, or they could write emails or write some content around it. So I think ClickUp, one more place where we started using GPT for that. For images, DALI, we have not kind of, it's more like exploration, not really as a business case. Of course, within Kylas, we are using a lot of exploring more possibilities. So we've used Gen AI kind of to, so we've seen a lot of places where sales guys kind of write a note where someone calls them up saying, or you do a follow up and the customer has said, call me back after 3 days or send me this data and something like that, which generally gets mentioned in the notes section where customer follow up with the customer, ask for something and something. And it's very straightforward, but there's no, the whole point of a CRM is to kind of generate a reminder and drive that key. This is something that you were supposed to do, and this it. So we use Gen AI to kind of submit this note and kind of get a task generated out of it. So the task has more context. It can link back to a specific lead or deal or something in your pipeline, and it has a due date and stuff like that. So again, one use case to kind of drive efficiency. So we use this very extensively internally, where this gets mentioned. That we've also used copy.ai to kind of automate some of the content that goes out. So I think these are most common ones that have kind of very high recall on.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and same here. But interesting insight. Thanks, Ketan.
So Ankit, what about you? What tools are you using at MyOperator for the same?
So I think it's mostly the same which Ketan specified. ChatGPT, I think, is everybody's using. We started consuming a lot of ChatGPT APIs even to build our own knowledge systems. Interestingly, so we and as I said, in earlier discussions, that we need to start using the system first. And now, because we have been using digital systems, CRM systems, etc., for many years now, it was much easier for us to start experimenting or adopt some of these. Like one of the things that we're experimenting, how do we automate our customer support queries, at least the basic of it. And over the years, we have been able to create more than 1,000 FAQs, that's created around MyOperator, the whole journey, etc. Now it's simple, we use that FAQ to generate customer interaction in the first place, and that's like saving our customer interaction time significantly. It's just the start, and I think we already are seeing a reduction of maybe 40% or 50% right now. But we strongly think it'll reduce the basic first layer preliminary checks or answering by 70-80% in coming times. And personal, I think personal chat GPT as an assistant, paraphrasing, writing emails, or all those checks are very mandatory. Summarizing, something I've been using a lot. Often we get long emails or long Slack conversation, and then you can't read everything. You just summarize and read it. That's something I've been fondly using. That's about it.
So Thank you so much, Ankit, for your insights. Thank you so much, Ketan. So, I would like to ask the attendees here, if you have any questions for our speakers, you can raise your hands and I will unmute you so that you can ask your questions. Do we have some questions? Even if you want to put it in the chat window, we are open to that as well. Let's just wait a couple of minutes for people to respond.
So at least I'll take the opportunity of this time to explain something as MyOperator we are building on. Uh, one of the things that, especially on the voice communication side, we always saw was voice communication. Every interaction we were generating customer recordings and etc., which was kind of, for an audit tool for businesses. And for long we have been thinking, how do we really use all this call recording etc. to empower the customer better? I think now, and something which even Ketan mentioned, writing notes etc., so we started thinking, can we start generating a lot of these task or action items or summarize out of the call directly? And I think that's a powerful thing that we're building internally, and we imagine, like, maybe a year now, it'll be just you talk and rest of the actions would be done, CRM maintenance even etc., a lot of things would be done by the communication itself. And how the whole technology not just changed the world but also have reduced the cost of doing it is amazing. And that's what I think, the whole communication layer along with the CRM space going to emerge very differently. And something I think, next 5 years we'll be sitting together again and discussing, oh look how the world has changed, probably something which we are discussing, the whole mobile world. We often have this discussion at home, look how mobile has changed in 10 years etc. But the only difference which I strongly feel, what mobile did in probably 5 years, 10 years, this whole thing gonna do in next 2-3 years, so max 5. This is gonna rapidly change this whole thing. Though the whole generative AI journey gonna be another decade or maybe so, but I think that the change or impact is much faster than anything that we have seen in the past.
Definitely.
So I think we do not have any questions from the attendees as such. I would also like to take this time to tell you that we have a special something for you guys here. So for all our attendees who have joined us today, we are giving a special bundle discount from MyOperator and Kylas. So if you want to purchase our services, we are offering a 15,000 off on MyOperator Growth Dex plan and up to 25% off on Kylas annual plans. So if any one of you is interested in the same, you can drop in your details here in the chat box and our sales team will connect with you accordingly. So thank you so much for your time, Ketan. Thank you so much for your time, Ankit. It was lovely talking to you guys. And if you would like to, close this amazing webinar with a statement or any closing statement from your end, that would be really great.
Ketan, you start.
I don't think that like a concluding statement, but I would encourage everyone who is present here to kind of start exploring. Don't be afraid. Start exploring. Anytime that you need any help in terms of this, you can always connect or talk to me over LinkedIn and stuff. But explore. The more you explore, the more you learn. There's nothing to fear in GenAI, and it's going to be very easy adopting or using it compared to any other tool or software that you have use. Like Ankit said, it's the interface is so easy. Try to put it into your process. Try to put it into your team. Talk to the team, and your journey. It's going to be a good journey.
Thank you so much, Ketan. Ankit, closing statements from your end.
Sure. See, the reason why both MyOperator and Kylas, why Ketan and me existed, it's to empower businesses. We have been doing it for some time. We have been using technologies to build, systems which can be used by businesses, which can really empower the process, make them more efficient. And this whole generative AI thing is empowering us to be able to do that even further. I think more than anybody, we would be excited because we think, the empowerment that we are able to do, the whole efficiency that we were able to deliver with the current system, I think that's going to increase tenfold. And I'm not exaggerating the number, it's really going to be tenfold from it is now. And we are really motivated with this whole change, but we really want people to start adopting these technologies in the first place to be able to see those changes happening in next 2-3 years of time. They really will see a significant business transformation next 2-3 years of time. But for that 2-3 years to happen, you really need to start using these systems in the first place. And that, that will also motivate us to drive value. That's what ultimately we both exist.
Very well said, Ankit. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our attendees. It was lovely having you guys here. And yeah, that's the end of our session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Ankit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ketan.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.